Good morning, Rabbi Sai. The Mishnah tells us that if you shecht an animal on Shabbos Yom Kippur, you're allowed to eat from the shechita. Says Rav, yes, but you have to wait a day. And the whole sugya is, who does it go according to? According to Rabbi Yehuda. But which Rabbi Yehuda? We're going to go through different scenarios, different Rabbi Yehudas. Says the Gemara, Omer Ravuna Dorash Chia Barav Mishmei Derav. Said in the name of Rav. Asur b'achila liyoyma. You're not allowed to eat it for a day. V'naz v'chavraya l'meima Rabbi Yehuda. This goes according to Rabbi Yehuda, and the Gemara says, hey Rabbi Yehuda, which Rabbi Yehuda is it? And the rest we'll see from a different place. We got to learn a little Torah also on the plane. Omar Ravuna Dorash Chia. So, as we said before, if somebody shechs on Shabbos, you're allowed to use the shechita, but Rav says that you have to wait at least a day. And the Chaverim said it must go according to Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gemara is going to try to decipher which Rabbi Yehuda it is. Hey Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda the Hachonahi. This is Rabbi Yehuda that says that if you don't have something prepared before Shabbos, it's muktzah. For instance, it says in the Mishnah, Mechatchin es hadiluin lifnei behema, v'esanavela lifnei klavim. If you have gourds that are detached, obviously says Rashi is detached, so you're allowed to cut them up in front of an animal, and you're allowed to cut up a dead carcass and give it to the dogs on Shabbos. Meaning, on Erev Shabbos was alive, now you have a dead animal, you're allowed to give it to the dogs. You can't give it to the dogs. Why? Because it wasn't prepared to give to the dogs beforehand, so it's muktzah. Something that's not ready to go to feed your animals before Shabbos, you can't, just because it became ready on Shabbos, it's also. Since it wasn't prepared from the day before, it's also. Over here also by the shechita, not only by the nevela, by the shechita, it wasn't food. So Rabbi said, think about it. What could you do with an animal other than eating it?
Give it to your animals. Animal food.
So the Gemara says legadol. Legadol means for offspring. A lot of people have animals for offspring, and that's what this guy had it for. He didn't have it to eat. He didn't want to eat it. Eating is the last stop. When you have nothing else to do with this animal, then you eat it. But otherwise, it could produce. We know that you're allowed to shecht an animal. It's oichel nefesh. You're allowed to shecht an animal on Yontiv. How do you shecht it if it wasn't available for eating? It wasn't food. It was legado. So how can you switch designations on Yontiv? How can you go from designation of legado for offspring and go to food? It's there for both. So this is the sugya that we're dealing with. The Mishnah says that if somebody shechs on Shabbos or Yontiv, he's Mechal Shabbos, you could eat a shechita. And the Rishonim explain, we're talking about that he did a bitzina, he didn't do befarhesya. Says Rav, but you have to wait a full day. You can't just eat it right away. And we're saying that l'chayr Rav meant it goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. And we're trying to figure out which Rabbi Yehuda, and that's why it takes us through a trip through Shas, different things in Shas, beautiful sugyas. So now we're talking about on the plane. What does it mean, yesh breirer? Yesh breirer means, for instance, this case of truma. Person has wine, shmaka wines, they shipped in, don't ask. So they have this wine, and you want to drink wine, but the truma meiser is right before Shabbos, let's say, and you don't have enough time to separate truma and the meiser and meiser sheni. So you just say, listen, I'm going to drink the wine right now, and whatever's left over, that is what I intended to give before I started drinking the wine. So that's called retroactive clarification. What do you mean? That's what I intended. You didn't intend. Maybe the truma is in what you drank. No. Whatever's left over in the bottle, the 20% that's left over in the bottle, that's what I intended to do. So it says like this. That's where we're holding. And we want to prove that Rabbi Yehuda, it's this Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda, it only goes with breira. No, but Rabbi Yehuda argues on this whole concept of breira. He holds there's no breira. Well, let's lay Rabbi Yehuda breira minolon. Ilema, 5 lines from the bottom. We accomplish a lot during the day. If somebody purchases wine from mibein hakusim, from I don't have a lot of light here, so if I'm making a mistake in the reading, you'll tell me. If a person purchases wine from a kusi, what's a kusi? They came in; it was a nation that pretended they wanted to be part of Klal Yisrael. There's machlekes and shas. They really mean it. They were faking it. The bottom line is, even if they meant it, and we're going with they meant it, they wanted to, they came in with good intent, but later on, they just went off and they did their own thing. But they kept a lot of stuff. They keep their rices, they don't keep their rabbanans, and therefore they do take trumas and maasros, but you cannot rely on them when you buy wine from them that they took off trumas and maasros for you. They'll take for themselves, not for you. So what do? You're in a little bit of a pickle, and you want to take trumas and maasros quickly, but you don't have the time. So what do? You say, Oimer, shnei lugim shani osad lahafrish harehim truma. 2 out of the 100 that I'm about to drink over here, I want to set aside. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to do it later. That will be for the kohen. That's called truma. Asara ma'aserishan. I'm going to give 10 out of the 98 that are left. We'll call it 9.8. The Gemara just rounds it off. 10. We're going to go to the Levi. Tisha. Now we're really left with only like 90. So we're going to take 10% of that. 9 is going to myself, called Meiser Sheni. But for the Meiser Sheni, you have to do something called Umeichal v'Sheisim Miyad. You take that 9, you say, that 9 is going on money that I have in my drawer. That money I'm going to bring up to Yerushalayim one day and use it as Meiser Sheni. But that you do right away. The Truma Meiser is going to come out later. Divrei Rebbe Meir. Says the Gemara like this. So if you buy wine from a Kusi, so Rebbe says this is Breyer. Rabbi Yehuda, and here you see the Gemara is proving Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold the Breyer, he doesn't hold retroactive clarification. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Oisrim, you cannot separate Trumas and Maasros retroactively. Says the Gemara, no. Who told you? Maybe over there is something special. There's a great reason why you shouldn't use Breira when it comes to Truma. Why? Imagine, if you drink Tevel, it's Isider rice, it's Kares, right? So, what's the trick? You're going to drink Tevel, you can drink, but it's okay. Why? Because when you have something left on the bottom, that's going to become the Truma Meiser. And what if you don't do it at the end? What if you drink the whole thing? Then you drink Tevel. What if the bottle breaks? What if it spills? So you can't drink, it's going to come out that you drank Tevel retroactively. Retroactively, you drink Tevel because you never separated Trumas and Maasros. And that's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda, in that case, but maybe in general, in the rest of Shas, he holds of retroactive clarification of Breira. Don't you agree that it's possible that it'll break? I'm not worried about that. If it happens, it happens, but that's not the concern. We can use retroactive clarification. We can use, what are we going to use in our Shas for Breira? We can't use retroactive clarification. It's already, they have a copyright on that. Yeah, but the first time you have to explain what it is. Great. The Tani Ayoy. So how do you know the Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a Breira? From Ayoy, the Tani Ayoy. So for this I have to give a little bit of a Hagdama, and here's a beautiful, there's something called Chum. You're not allowed to go more than 2,000 Amma on Shabbos outside, past your house, if there's no Eruv, etc. So a guy has a house, and he's allowed to go 2,000 Amma, approximately 4,000 feet, let's call it. He needs to go 4,000 Amma, okay? He needs to go further. So there's a trick. He can reposition his home. So what does he do? As you see in this diagram right over here, his real house is the real house in the picture. His pretend house is where the challah is. So he puts a challah over there. Now his halachic home becomes where the challah is. So now he could go from that challah another 2,000 amas further, because his house is by the challah. And from the challah, he could go, because you could always go 2,000 amas in every direction. Anyway, from your own house, from your brick and mortar home, you could go 2,000 amas to the right, to the left, north, east, south, west. So what he did was, he repositioned his house, his Makayim Dira, to where the challah is, and now from the challah, he goes 2,000 amas in each direction. So he'll sleep in his real brick and mortar home. He'll take a spazier to his halachic house, 2,000 amas, and from there he can go in either direction, 2,000 amas, because that's his real home. His chal is his real home. So he'll go another 2,000 amas. He'll go like this. But what happens is, since his real home is halachically his chala, so he can only go 2,000 amas back to his house. But he can't even go into his backyard. He can't even go 1 amma past his house because that's already 2,000 amas away from the chala. His real home is by the chala. Yeah? Jamie, you with me? It's a shtickle tiring today. Oh. So what happened was, there's a rabbi. There's a rabbi, he's coming to speak. Rabbi Ari ben Shushan is coming to speak. But you don't know if Rabbi Ari is going to be 2,000 amas to the east or 2,000 amas to the west. You don't know in which direction you need to make your Eruv. So what you do is you position 2 chalas, one like in this picture, but another one in the other direction. And then when he shows up, and everybody says, oh, he's on the east, so you use that chala. Is that Breira or not Breira? Here's where it's Breira for sure, 100%. Rabbi Ari and Rabbi Yossi, they're both speaking in 2 different directions. So you put 2 chalas, and then you have to see, you're going to ask the Olam, who's better? You're going to do all the Lashon Hara stuff. And then on Shabbos, you're going to decide which one you want to go to. So what you do is, that is 100% Breira. Why? Because on Shabbos, you want to decide which one of the 2 Eruvs was the Eruv you can't live in 2 places at the same time. You can't pretend you lived on this chal and this chal, in 2 different directions. So Elamai, you want to choose one of the 2 chalas as your home, and you want to do that on Shabbos, and say, oh, on Friday, that's the one I really meant, not the other one. That's called retroactive clarification. That's 100% also. But what if it's just Rabbi Ari, and you don't know if it's from the right to the left? Then you could choose. And the Gemara is going to explain what the difference is. It says like this. Let's see inside. Ella, how do I know that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't believe in retroactive clarification in Breira? Because Ayo said, the Tani Ayo. Rabbi Yehuda, he can't make a condition on 2 different rabbis. Ella, what could he do? If it's one rabbi, it's Rabbi Ari, and you're not sure before Shabbos, you don't have WhatsApp, you don't have a cell phone, you lived 2,000 years ago. What? Or Monroe. Or Monroe, where you really don't have a cell phone, not the guys that have 2, and one for the Chayder and one for the, yeah. So, Inzere Monroe Chevere haben, they have okay, whatever. So, so he doesn't know if he's going to come from the east or the west. So he makes 2 Eruvim, and that's okay. On Shabbos, when you find out where he is, you'll use the one in that direction. We have to understand right away, why is that a nafkamina? Why is that not Breira? But if you have 2 Rabbanim coming, and you just don't know which one you want to listen to, and then on Shabbos you want to decide, loy. Everybody asked the question, why is it 2 rabbis different? The loy, we say you can't do that. The ain Breira, why? Because you cannot decide on Shabbos which Eruv you want to use. And just if you don't know where the rabbi is showing up from, that's also Breira. Beautiful. Rabbi ben Shushan already showed up to town. He's already here. You have a lack of knowledge. So what do? You make an Eruv on 2 Eruvim on Erev Shabbos. You say, listen, Rabbi Shem, I don't know where he is. I know he's here. When I find out, then that's the real Eruv. But it's not going to happen on Shabbos. It happens right now. Right now, the Eruv that's closer to Rabbi ben Shushan, that's the Eruv that's going to work. The other one is a joke. I just don't know which one it is. I don't know. Hashem knows. Right now, Hashem knows. It happened already. Ukvar Bach is here. It's just a lack of mind. So it's a t'nai. I'm making a t'nai, not a retroactive clarification. And Rabbi Yehuda holds, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein Odom Aslan B'Kitzer, he holds there's no Breira. Here's a clear-cut case. where Rabbi Yehuda says straight out, and we don't have a reason why he says it here. It's just because he doesn't hold a retroactive clarification. Now let's see this unbelievable video. I thought it's gewaldig. It's short and sharp. So now he goes to the Moroccan fish and he has 2,000 ams from the Moroccan fish in the next direction. Okay. So, El Omar Rav Yosef. So now let's do a quick recap. The Mishnah says that when you're allowed to eat the shechita of somebody who shechted it on Shabbos, Rav says that it's only you have to wait a full day, and that it goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to see maybe it's not Rabbi Yehuda, but the Chaverim said it's Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, let's take this off. Says the Gemara. So which Rabbi Yehuda is this that says you have to wait a whole day? Elon Rabbi Yehuda the Kalim. It's the famous Rabbi Yehuda of the vessels. The what? It's not. We're talking about a kli. This is a kli. You're allowed to move this on Shabbos. Yes. What happens if this breaks? Breaks. It should be muktzah. You have no usage for it. But it says the Gemara, you're allowed to move the broken pieces. I'm not talking about pikuach nefesh, a kid is going to step on it, all those tirutzim. I'm talking about just are you allowed to move it? Provided that you could do something with it. There's two things that are going on here. Something with it, and then we're going to see me'ein, the original malacha, which means not stam something that's very similar to the original usage. But now we're not there. We're in a very weak thing. If you can do something with it, then you're allowed to move it. For instance, shivri areva l'chaz b'hem pichavis. You have a bowl, a mixing bowl that broke. So if you could cover something with it, you could cover another vessel, then it's considered non-muktzah. Shivri schuches, broken glass. If you could l'chazis b'hem piapach, here mamish, something like this, a very small opening, you cover it. Okay, so it won't be my megula. You have some sort of usage. It's the weakest usage ever. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no. I'm going to be makbid here. It has to be similar to the original usage. Therefore, Shivrei Areva, if it originally was a bowl, so then it has to be used as a bowl. Let's look l'toicha mikvah. That you should be able to put in it some sort of smaller tafshel. Shivrei schuches, let's look l'toicha shemen. And if it's broken glass, should be able, and what do we do before? Before it was a glass holding oil. Now also you have to be able to hold a little oil in it. Otherwise, muktzah. Mei melachtan in, mei melach acheres loy. And therefore, what does that have to do with our sugya? Alma kivin the loy itka me'et malach melacha asiri. So we're talking about an animal that you shechted on Shabbos. This animal wasn't designated yet for eating. And memela, it's muktzah. This animal wasn't there before Shabbos. It's like a kli that has no usage right now, and it becomes asur. I don't like this. Over there, by the kli that broke, when Shabbos came in, it was a great kli, and now that it's a broken kli, it's something else. Something new was created here. It went from being a nice mixing bowl to a tiny little thing. Now I have to see, is it the same, whatever. But something new happened there. Over here, this animal walking around was food. And today it's also food. So it's broken food. It's a little bit different, but it's food. Anything that even if it changed the way it looks, it used to be, I don't know, a loaf of bread, and now it's a bunch of crumbs, Okay, but still food. You're right that it looks different, but it's food. Food is food. Over here, you had a walking piece of meat. Now it's a dead piece of meat, but it's a piece of meat. It retains its title, which the Gemara doesn't like in a second. You'll see. Snan, we learned, you're not allowed to squeeze fruit to get juice out of it. And if the juice came out by itself, asurim, you're not allowed to drink from it. Why? Because there's a gzera that you might squeeze fruit on Shabbos, and that we know you're not allowed to squeeze on Shabbos. But if these fruit were designated to eat, like you have a bunch of grapes, you bought them to serve them for dessert on Shabbos, you're allowed to drink the grape juice that comes out of them. Why? Because there's no gzera that you might come to squeeze them, because you're not going to squeeze such grapes. Those are grapes that are designated for eating. But if these grapes, they're for juice, then it's also. So Mela, by food, by this animal too, the Gemara asks, even though, it should be considered, even though it changed, the way it looks, it's not considered noila. It's not a new thing. It was there before. So says the Gemara, we already explained. No, but Rabbi Yehuda that we're discussing here argues on that. That what? That according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would be mutter to drink from this. Since it's there to squeeze and get juice, so he's good with it. So too, by shchita, also Rabbi Yehuda would agree that he thought about it, and therefore we have to be concerned he might shech this animal on Shabbos. So says the Gemara, Midu Taima El Rav. We're trying to fit Rabbi Yehuda into Rav. Rav is the one that said that you have to wait a whole day to eat a shchita of somebody who's Mechal Shabbos. And we said that goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. So, Hama Rav, but Rav himself, that Rabbi Yehuda argues on Zeisim HaNovim. So one more, and then we'll do the rest tomorrow. So who's Rav referring to when Rav says you have to wait a full day? This is the Rabbi Yehuda of the candles, the famous candle one. I think a lot of people know the halach of candles today. When you light candles, we know that it becomes a buses. Also, you're not allowed to move it. So similar. What's the Rabbi Yehuda of Neiros? That Rabbi Yehuda holds that a brand new candle you're allowed to move on Shabbos, but not a used one. Why? Because there's something called muksa machmas mios. It's a disgusting thing, full of oil and wax and all that. It's gross, and therefore you don't move it on Shabbos. The Rabbi Yehuda, MMA, the Gemara wants to say that by us also there's a muksa machmas iser, similar type of muksa. Just like something that's gross, you're not allowed to move. Something that's usher, you're not allowed to shech on Shabbos, so it becomes muksa. Says Gemara, what's the connection? Even the Shabbos Rabbi Yehuda b'muksa machmas mios, muksa machmas iser, Shabbos he never said it. He did say it. This nan Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol neiros shel mateches metalfan. Candles that are made out of metal, you're allowed to move. Chutz min haner shedigu by b'yis Shabbos. So now it became muksa machmas iser. It's a bosses. It itself has an iser, and mamela, an animal also. What's the connection? An animal before Shabbos was aver min achai. It had an iser to it. It's just like a candle that you can't move. It's like a bosses to something else. That's a little crazy, but it is a shtik iser. It's muksa machmas iser because of the mechai. So now it's aver min achai, and you're going to try to shecht it on Shabbos and make it mutter. That Rabbi Yehuda is going to hold that it's aser. Rabbi Yisai, have a wonderful day and have a restful evening to everybody in Morocco.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.